welcome back for another CBSI Hot 10 show. Make sure you go over to comicbookinvest.com and check out the article where I may put a few extra details and tidbits that I don't cover here on the show tonight. And while you're at it, check out all the articles over there, as well as all the shows I have here on the channel. Make sure that you tell me what you think in the comments down below, that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. You keep telling your friends that we can keep growing the channel. We are getting so close to hitting 5K by Memorial Day. I think we might do it very soon. So keep telling your friends so we can keep growing and hit that mark sooner rather than later. Now, with all of that said, if you want to see this week's list, don't worry, I got you covered. I'll hit it up as soon as we get back from the short little break.
Notable sales.
All right, our first notable sale is a pretty big book. This is Wolverine 310. This is the sketch Stephen Platt variant. This is a 1 in 200 incentive from back in the day. Yes, it's a very famous cover. The color version I actually prefer, but the sketch is much harder to find. And this week, a CGC 9.8 sold for a new all-time high of $6,500, which is way up from the last sale, which was about $2,200 back in 2022. 9.8s don't come up all that often, as you can see here. This is the last one in the past 3 years, and it basically tripled in price. So that is a big sale, a new all-time high for this book. And again, not a book that's easy to come across, though I still prefer the color version, personally. But this is a toughie, to be sure. With that said, that's our first book to cover for notable sales. And the other, I find, is an interesting book that also doesn't come up all that often, but we have seen a few recently. And that is that Punisher M&M book. It's basically no numbered. It's not numbered. It was inside a magazine, I believe, the XXL magazine. This thing, 9.8's also not easy to find. A 9.8 sold this week for a pretty solid amount. I can't say it's an actual all-time high. It's pretty close to where it had been previously, but a 9.8 did sell for just under $2,000 at $1,995. Now, what was interesting is that this is actually the third copy to be sold on eBay by the same seller, and they had sold two 9.8s back in February for $1,750 and $1,775. So even then, this third one did get a little bit more over those 2 months since the last sales. Now, with all that said, before we get into the Hot 10 list, I want to remind any of you out there who need supplies, use my code RENNA10, save yourself 10% off your entire order over at BCW. Get your bags, your boards, your short boxes, your long boxes, CGC boxes, top loaders, pages for your cards, whatever you need to keep your comics and collectibles safe. BCW's probably got a product that you can buy, and you can save 10% off by using my code RENNA10. Now, with that said, and with that 10 in mind, let's get into the Hot 10 with our first book.
Number 10.
And at number 10, we have this beautiful 1 in 25 second print for Pinapocalypse, if I'm saying it right. Pinapocalypse, number 1, second print came out this week. There was multiple covers, but this is the 1 in 25 incentive by Savita Shabina, if I'm saying her name properly. Gorgeous cover. Does not come up all that often because there aren't that many of them. Fact being, I even debated whether to put this on the list this week because I usually don't like putting books with really, really low volume on here. But this did sell for some big numbers. So even though I only counted 4 sales since Wednesday, so this week, this book only just came out Wednesday. I only counted 4 sales this week. It's averaging $120 for this 1 in 25, so I couldn't ignore it. I had to find a spot for it here at the bottom. The high sale for the week was $144. I think the cheapest one that sold was $90. So even at that point, that's more than triple the incentive ratio. So big numbers for this book, and there's not many listed. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 listed, and they're seeking above that 144 mark. And then I think there's that one at auction that is just kind of playing around out there. We'll see where it ends come Sunday. But with that said, I had to put this in on the list at number 10 because even though volumes are low, and we can debate whether 4 is enough to qualify for the list, those prices were too high for me to ignore. Now, with that said, let's keep the list rolling and check out our next book.
Number 9.
All right, so number 9 is a book we have seen before. This is Batman The Dark Knight number 3. And yes, this was on the list last week, dropping down from that second position all the way down to number 9. David Finch cover, White Rabbit, actress confirmed to be in Peacemaker Season 2 is what kind of created the buzz on this book, as well as her first appearance in the actual first issue of this Dark Knight series. But this cover is the book that a lot of people like grabbing as related to the character. There's also a couple other covers out there. There's a beautiful art germ you can find on a later series, etc. But why is this one here and still on the list at number 9? Well, the volume's pretty much maintained with over 35 sales, but the average price has gone up from last week. It's actually up 40%, about 21 bucks now for this book, where last week it was closer to, I think, like 14 or 15. A newsstand edition. Always look for those newsstands for these later books. Any books, post 2000, definitely look for newsstands. $61 for one of these in a newsstand. So you definitely get a premium if you can find a newsstand on a book like this. So keep an eye out for it. But that's why this one maintained. Price went up. Volumes pretty much stayed kind of consistent. But the price jump of 40% is why it still earns a spot on the list, albeit much lower than it was last week. Now, with that said, let's take a look at our next one.
Number 8.
And here we have another book hanging on to the list from last week. And this is another one that's dropped down a bit. Coming in at number 8, dropping down from the top spot last week, we have Helverine number 5, that Alessandro Cappuccio cover, the spoiler cover, spoiling the Hell Hulk first appearance inside this book. Yes, we have another Hell Hulk showing up here. And this one is here because volumes have jumped considerably. Kind of the reverse of the last book. Prices maintain about 15 bucks on average, which is pretty close to last week, which I think was like 14. So it's pretty close, up a tiny bit. Basically, prices remaining the same, even with that high at 32. But the volumes here are up significantly, with 90 plus sales that I counted over the last 7 days, with up 125% from last week. So price went up on the White Rabbit book. Hell Hulk volumes went up a ton. So that's why I made my distinction between the two, and both still earning a spot here on the list, albeit much lower than they were last week. With that said, we'll see. We'll see how this one continues to roll, because people apparently are liking these Marvel mashups and these new tweaks and twists on characters we've seen before. I figured we'd be tired of this kind of thing by now, but nope, it's still getting a little bit of heat. So we'll see if Marvel keeps it up. But with that said, that was our number 8 book. So let's look at lucky number 7.
Number 7.
Look at that. Even some fake falsified images on the internet could even move books. Yes, we had some fake Lobo pictures supposedly on the set of Supergirl drop on the the interwebs this week, and it caused a stir. People were talking about Lobo and Jason Momoa again, and reminding people to go look for their Omega Men number 3, which is a book that started to move this week thanks to those those fake pictures out there. It takes all different things to move books these days. Anyway, classic first appearance. Yes, this isn't the main man that you remember. This is a sillier look, even though he was still a pretty villainous character back then. The purple outfit, just a bad look for him. Just saying. With that said, this book up in volume, which is why it's earning that spot at number 7, up 70% with about 30 sales the past 7 days. Prices are pretty consistent where they've been the last year or so, with Raws averaging 85 bucks, but a high sale in a Raw for 180 is a decent amount, and CGC 9.8s are up to 375 right now. I think I saw like a 350 in there mixed in as well, but 375 was that CGC 9.8 high, so prices are still pretty high and pretty good for this book. If you are a collector, and if you're one still shopping, you might have to wait it out a little bit longer to see if there's a dip before we actually get an official image of Lobo in the months to come. But with that said, that is our number 7 book. So let's keep the list rolling and check out our number 6 book.
Number 6.
Now, not faked images, but images that are causing a bit of a stir and a bit of debate online over the quality, I guess, of the new Silver Surfer, as we got a new Fantastic Four trailer dropping this week, and we did get a look at that female Silver Surfer, the Shalabal version of the Silver Surfer, reminding people of this Earth X number 12 book, Alex Ross cover. This is the first Shalabal as the Surfer. Again, it's not a one-for-one happening. Like, this isn't being adapted on screen. It's just her as a surfer is a book that people are looking for. Now, this thing had dipped quite a bit since its prior highs, but with that trailer drop this week, a lot of people are going back and picking it up again with about a couple dozen sold, up 90% from last week. So prior to the trailer, no one was looking at it. Trailer drops, people are buying it again. Average is still around $35, which is still kind of close to where it was. I think it hit like $50 here or there back in the day. So it's still kind of lingering in that same kind of range. And a 9.6, not a 9.8. 9.6 sold for $120 because 9.8s actually catch over 3 these days. So something to keep in mind and a book to keep an eye out for. Still, if you're interested in, this female shallow ball Silver Surfer version that we got. And again, who knows? Hopefully they tweak. I didn't think it was that bad, personally. The graphics, not every shot, a couple shots look better than others. We'll see how it works out. We'll see if they kind of polish some of that CGI effects before we get the actual release this July. I mean, they got a couple of months, so I would not be surprised to see some polishing going on. I mean, you guys remember Ugly Sonic back in the day, right? Big change once they got some time to clean it up. With that said, let's keep it rolling and check out the top half of the list.
Number 5.
Speaking Silver Surfer and Shallow Ball, yes, we have the OG original Silver Surfer number 1. Not the first appearance of the Silver Surfer, mind you. That's still Fantastic Four 48. But this is the first appearance of Shallow Ball. I don't think that's what's really moving the needle on this one. I think it's just more the Surfer in general. And we did see that all-time high last week in that 9.8. But this week, we're seeing volume start to move in a bit of a premium, but 162%. It's up with a couple dozen sold. Overall prices averaging about $485. That's mixing in graded with raw because this is the book that sells as many graded as it sells raw. So I couldn't really differentiate the two, but I did want to give you the highs for each. So the highs this week were $450 raw and a PGX. Yes, a PGX 7.5 sold for just under $1,400 this past week for this Silver Surfer number 1. Now, again, this is the book. It's a classic. It's a book a lot of people are still looking for. Prices can be all over the place. I mean, reader copies can still fetch over $100. Meanwhile, mid-grades could get $450 like they did here. And then you got higher grade raws, could go for even higher. And then, even PGX versions sell. So, with that said, Silver Surfer doing well this week, earning itself at spot at number 5. With that said, let's keep it going and see what we got next.
Number 4.
Another book returning to the list, we have Sister Imperator. This book got hot out of the gate thanks to that band Ghost and this comic book backstory for the character of Sister Imperator. Took me by surprise, this Dark Horse book, when it first came out because I had no idea what it was. I didn't know about the band or anything. I gave the band a shot. They're just not for me. It's just not really for me. But I can understand they've got a following and they've got a cult following, which drove this book to that top spot, I think once or twice a couple of months ago. So it's back after dipping in price. Sister Imperator issue 1 is back this week, and we'll get to why in a minute. But over 75 sold, which is up 261% from last week's sales. Averages up to $11 again, which I know doesn't seem like a lot, but it was like 15 to 20 not that long ago. And then it dipped pretty much back down to almost cover in a lot of cases. There's a lot of copies sold. And even copies sold this past week were in that cover range before pulling back up to that $11 average, which is up 22% from last week. And then highs hitting $20, which is a high that is 33% higher than last week's high of like 15, I think. So again, interest is back in Sister Imperator. And the reason why is because of our next book coming in at number 3.
Number 3.
And that book is the new release of issue 2 of said series. So Sister Imperator number 2. I mentioned this on my Wednesday watch list show earlier in the week, how I'm telling people are going to want this. People are going to go buying this. It wasn't for me personally because it just wasn't that into it. So I was going to be leaving it on the shelf, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of folks were rushing to pick this up, given the success of issue 1. And I wasn't wrong. Issue 2 came out this week, has done well. Even online sites like Midtown had limits of 1 earlier in the week before selling out pretty quickly. Issue 2, Pretty cool looking cover. I mean, I like it. This week we've seen about 50 sold. And after all of those cover price copies and pre-orders kind of cleared out quickly, this thing rose to about an $18 average, even hitting a high of $49 this week. This week, we've seen some crazy things happen with the new releases, and we're going to get to that with our next 2 books as well. But prices are just hitting numbers right out of the gate higher than I would have expected. I mean, $49 for this already? That's quite a bit. Sets for issues 1 and 2 have also been selling about 40 to 50 bucks. So you saw what happened issue 1. It had that spike a couple of months ago, kind of dipped a few weeks ago, dipped. Now with issue 2 out, interest returned, and now sets are selling for about 50 bucks. But $50 for a new release out of the gate just for doing a Wednesday Warrior pickup off the wall is a good return. It's a good premium if you're out there doing that Wednesday Warrior hunting. Good luck. Good luck. But this is a book that, again, I don't know if this is going to hold, but at least for right now, it surged pretty high pretty quickly. Now, with that said, let's keep it rolling and check out what we got at number 2.
Number 2.
Here we have another new release. And again, I talked about this book on my watch list because this is my favorite cover for this week. If you see my shorts, you saw this is my favorite cover of the week. It's Daniel Warren Johnson. We got a samurai-looking samurai-looking Wolverine. It's just an awesome-looking cover. I like the negative space aspects to it, the shadow, the darkness, the arrows all in his samurai gear. I admit I am biased towards samurai, considering I'm full-on playing Assassin's Creed Shadows like any free moment that I have these days. But this is just a cool cover, and like I said, my favorite cover of the week. I am still shocked by the prices this thing has hit. Granted, this had an $8 cover price. This is an $8 buy-in because this is an anniversary legacy issue 400. 8 is not an anniversary, but legacy 400 is why it was a double-sized book. $8 to buy in, but still, that didn't stop 100+ sales of this cover. Not the other covers. Other covers are easily obtainable. So it's not about the book. It's about the art. It's about the cover these days. And it's averaging $20 this week. Yes, $8 buy-in, averaging 20. This one also hit a high of 50, but with plenty of $30, $40 sales all over the place. This is once again another case of a brand new release book that came out this Wednesday that you Wednesday Warriors could have scored big because for one reason or another, this week, new releases shooting up really high, really quickly. I don't know if it's people with extra C2E2 money flipping their exclusives that they got or what, but all of a sudden, I mean, taxes, I guess maybe it could be taxes. I mean, tax day just passed. Maybe people got a few extra bucks that they want to throw at comics. Something is happening right now, and these new releases are shooting up pretty high, pretty darn quick. Don't know if it can hold here, but we'll see as the week rolls on. With that said, that's not even the top book of the week. We got one more left, and let's see what it is.
And our number 1.
And here at number 1, we have yet another new release that is doing gangbusters on the aftermarket. Only out a couple of days. These last 3 books, they're top 3, only out since Wednesday. And here we have the Summer of Superman special number 1, the Alexander Lozano cover. Beautiful, fun-looking Supergirl. It's got like an anime, almost a Disney princess kind of quality to it. I dig it. I like it. Also, one of my favorite covers of the week. Not my favorite. The Wolverine's still my favorite, but it's up there. With that said, a lot of folks were buying this one in droves. And yes, a lot of sales started at cover. A lot of those pre-orders sold at cover, which this did have a, what is this, a $5.99 or $6.99 buy-in? So also a premium price for this special oversized book. But this still managed to get 170+ sales just of this cover alone for this book, averaging $18 out of the gate. Out of the gate, another book that's almost $20, hitting highs again of 40. Plenty of, and all of the last, few dozen sales I mentioned, they started at cover, but all of the more recent sales have all been 30, 40, and inching over that. I wouldn't be surprised if this is another one that starts hitting that $50 mark of the Wolverine and of the Sister Imperator number 2. Again, don't know where all this extra cash is coming from into the market, but a lot of it is being thrown around on these new releases this week. And they're not even incentives. These are open order variants. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe they were under ordered. Don't want to start telling tales and speculating in that way. Just saying, a lot of people want them, and they're cashing in pretty quickly. So however many copies are out there, people are cashing in for some big numbers on these books. And it's fun to see. It's impressive to see. I miss the days of Wednesday warrioring, and applaud any out there who are still doing it. You guys still grinding every week, every Wednesday, looking for that book to go and do that, double, triple cover flip. Good on you for it. With that said, that's the list for this week. Hopefully you found that helpful. Hopefully you found that enjoyable. But don't go anywhere. The boys of the qualified will be starting up next. I might even pop in for a little bit and say hello to Mark Spears, who will be joining them as he's got a new Kickstarter that he wants to announce there on the show tonight, as well as all the other segments the boys do. They got some fun games. They'll be covering the Outside Looking In, which are books that didn't make the Hot 10 that I threw out for them, and a lot of fun stuff. So stick around. Join the boys and Mark Spears next as soon as this is over, and I will see you all later with some more content. All right?